So we have driven 169.5 miles, averaging 4.3 miles per kilowatt, driven 3 hours in total. It says we have 110 miles of range left. We started the trip at 100% battery. We're now at 40% battery. So we are on track, assuming that 110 is accurate, which so far the range estimates on this car have been very accurate. We are on track to get about 270 miles of range, which is about 20 miles over the EPA rating of about 250. So this is my first time using an Electrify America charger. We got two other bays. One's the Chatamo, and then the two other bays of CCS. Those are 350 kilowatts. I'm only up to the parked at the 150 kilowatt charger. I've never used the app before. I have created my account, added my payment method and all, but this will be the first time using public fast charging with this vehicle. This is a 2020 Kona electric, and this is our first road trip we've taken where we actually have to use public charging because we're going far enough where we have to. We're trying to get down to Atlanta, Georgia, from the area of like Charlotte, North Carolina. So we've driven a pretty good ways, and to kind of avoid the hassle of charging in Atlanta, we're just going to charge here before going into the city. I think that's the address of where we are right now. That way, by the time we get into the city, we can kind of drive around, not even have to worry about charging. And then on our way back, we'll stop by a charger again just outside the city, top off, and we should be good to head back to the house without having to charge again. So I think we're only going to be charging twice. Thankfully, we got a Walmart in this area. Unfortunately, there's not really any restaurants or anything else in this area, which kind of sucks. I wish they would put these chargers closer to restaurants and stuff, but they don't. So I just plugged in. All I did was open up the app. I selected charger number 1, swiped to charge. Didn't know what cable to grab, so I just grabbed the one that I thought would reach, which would be that one, and it just barely reaches. I'll show you that in a minute. It's just the way they designed where this charger sits as opposed to where that charger sits. It's probably would have been better if I backed up into the space, but we're going to be fine right now. The moment I plugged it in, it said that it was working on connecting. A few seconds later, it connected, and we are getting currently 53 kilowatt hours. So we'll be back up to 80% in about 32 minutes, according to the car. The charger is not telling us that information. I'll show you that in a second. We're at 42% battery now. Vehicle is still running. I'm keeping the air conditioning on. This entire trip has, by the way, been driven in normal mode, not eco mode. And I do not have the climate control settings to reduce power in normal mode. They run at full power on normal mode. They only reduce power in eco mode. And we've been driving generally anywhere from between 65 to 75 miles an hour. Kind of the slow spots on the highway have been about 60. The fast spots have been about 80. So we're generally probably averaging 70 miles an hour on this trip. And just been driving like normal, not doing any special little hacks to try to get extra range or anything like that. And so far, I mean, it's been perfectly fine. I'll show you the charging setup out here. Bit of a small fit. So this cord, oh, now my screen finally goes. So all right, 32 minutes until 80%, so that's not bad. I don't know, are they charging me per kilowatt or per minute? Per minute, 56 cents per kilowatt, which is incredibly expensive. So that is literally just how much range I have with the cord. It was a pretty hard fit, and there's some weird grease up on the bottom of that, so I had to clean my hand afterwards. But it's charging well, but yeah, this cord could have really been longer. That is something that I do wish that they would have fixed when they designed this, because these slanted parking spaces are, we have plenty enough space. We're in the space, we're not impeding traffic at all, but still, they could have added just a little bit of a longer cord. I'm not gonna do a time lapse of this screen because I didn't bring a tripod or anything with me. Current charging speed 75 kilowatts, so it went up from, it was about 53, now it's at 75, which I believe is the max for the 2020 Kona. This is an ultimate trim, by the way, but from my understanding, the ultimate trims or the basic trims, limited, they all have the exact same the same size battery. They don't do anything different with the motor or the battery. It's not until you get to the next generation of Kona that there's actually a extended range and a standard range battery. And car is saying 75 kilowatt hours too. So the car and the charger are both giving me the exact same amount of information. So far this charging experience has been exactly what I was hoping for, just a plug and play charging experience. So that's pretty nice. I'll give you an update on how long it actually takes, whether or not the vehicle is correctly estimated, just how long it'll take to charge. Just jumped up to 46 right there. I think we just skipped 45. So this thing's charging up pretty quick. Alrighty, so we have been charging for 31 minutes. We are at 79%. I'm about ready to unplug. We actually charge at our full speed, at least for this car, of 76 kilowatt hours. It's dropped down now to 25. Good thing we were by a bathroom because I ended up needing to go, so that's not kind of nice thing about being in this parking lot. One charger is down right now, and there's a VW ID4 and Ioniq 5 that are charging right now. Behind me is a Ioniq 6 that is actually waiting for me to pull out so he can charge because this one charger is down. So Electrify America, if you're watching this, we need maybe another 2 lanes of charging in this parking lot, or at least that charger needs to be back up online because this seems like it's a pretty busy charger. We were the only one to pull up in here when we first got here, and now there's already 3 EVs that are wanting to charge besides just us. But so far this charging experience has been perfectly fine. We're at 80%, still pulling 25 watts. I'll probably unplug once the speed drops to below 25. It's saying an hour and 1 minute to fully charge. So all in all, been pretty happy with this experience. We're up to 221 miles of range now. Alrighty, so we have arrived at our destination, and this is our 3rd charger. Believe it or not, we were actually plugged into a level 2 right down behind this pillar here. We thought we were going to be here for hours, and then our plans took a sudden turn for the worst, and now our plans are over, and we gotta try to make new plans while we're down here because the entire event we had planned for just got canceled, which is really frustrating. So we spent 44 minutes here. We just got back to the car. If we would have been plugged into level 3, we could have immediately basically have had our car topped off by the time we came back here, but we assumed we were going to be here for hours, so we had plugged into level 2. So this is annoying. So now I have to figure out what else we're going to do while we're down here because our plans are canceled. So right now I just went from the level 2, plugged into the level 3, and we're charging at a relatively okay speeds. I mean, 48 is, well, it's really not that good because I wish I was doing 70 right now, but it is what it is. We're at least gonna figure out what plans, and while we're sitting here figuring out what we're gonna do, we're just charging, and then we're gonna head out and carry on with this trip. All right, so we figured out where we're gonna go and what we're gonna do for the rest of the day. So we got about an hour drive in front of us. We were at 57. We're now at 80. We've only been sitting here for, well, according to time elapsed, 24 minutes. It doesn't actually feel that long, but we figured out what we're going to do now. So now that we're at, in this case, 80, I'm going to go ahead and unplug, and we will head on our way. This is my first time using the EVgo chargers, and so far, it has gone smoothly. Haven't really had any issues, apart from right now. Get in there. Goodness. Alrighty. Cool. Okay, screen's done. Yeah, it's been an interesting experience. This being our first time using public charging and level 3 charging. But all in all, we've had no issues with any of the chargers. These are definitely different than Electrify America, and this one's not very fast, but, I mean, hey, it worked for us. So now I'll take you in the car to see what our trip has been. So we have driven 268 miles on this trip so far, averaging 4.4 miles per kilowatt with 6 hours of runtime. And our average for the past 2,200 has been 4. So believe it or not, despite a lot of highway driving, we're getting 4.4 miles per kilowatt hour. That's pretty good. We are now at 80%, and we're gonna drive for about an hour, about 58-ish miles away, and that'll get us to our next destination. Alrighty, so we just finished our last stop. We are on the stretch to go back home. We found an Electrify America charger. It's actually the same one that we stopped at when we started this trip. We're going to go back to that same Electrify America charger because I don't have enough range to get to the next one over, but I have plenty enough range to get back to that Electrify America charger. And it's 1 hour, 25 minutes away, 97 miles. It says we have 165 miles of range. We're at 61% battery. We have driven 324 miles, still getting 4.3 miles per kilowatt, 7 hours and 50 minutes of runtime. So our efficiency has been great, and that's using both air conditioning and heat. We're in normal mode, haven't driven in eco mode at all. So we're going to be able to get there with plenty enough battery. And on top of that, we are going to stop and get some food. There is a couple of different restaurants, not walking distance from the level 3 charger, but they're literally like 2 minutes up the road. So we're just going to go through some fast food, get some fast food, drive to the charger, eat the fast food in the car while we're charging. And something I've been wondering this entire trip, and now I figured it out. Why are there not level 3 chargers at restaurants? That's something I've always wondered. Because, that'd be perfect. You go to your restaurant, you're on a road trip, you sit down and eat, your car charges to 100% by the time you're done eating, more than likely, because you're going to probably be eating for about an hour, or maybe 30 minutes. Either or, your car's almost completely charged, and that'd be perfect. You're eating and you're charging at the same time. And to me, that just seems like a no-brainer. Something I've realized with these, Electrify America and EV Go, if your car is at 100% and you leave it plugged up to that station at 100%, they hit you with massive fees. I believe EV Go's fee is $20 if you leave it sitting there for like past 10 minutes, I think it is, at 100%. A $20 fee is pretty expensive. So if you're at a restaurant and you're eating and it takes you 50 minutes to eat, but your car charged up in 30 minutes, you've just occupied that space for 20 minutes. There could be somebody else waiting on you. And now I understand why there is not level 3 chargers at restaurants. And I always thought that there should be, but now I kind of understand that. Now I really wish there were level 2 chargers at not only restaurants, but every single business. I think that's something that in this country we need to do, is introduce level 2 chargers, whether it be paid for or free, preferably, free chargers provided by that business. That way you can at least top up a little bit everywhere you go, and that would greatly help just so many people. But thankfully, with fast food locations being by that Walmart, where that Electrify America station is at, we're able to go through some fast food, drive to the Electrify America station in like 2-3 minutes away. So our food's still going to be warm. Well, it's fast food. They serve you cold food anyway, but the food's going to be pretty much the same temperature. And we're going to be able to eat our food while we charge. By the time we're done eating our food, we should be topped up. I probably only need to get the battery back up to 60-70%, and I should be able to make it home on that. I want to try to make it home with as little battery as possible. One, to test out the car. I want to see how accurate our range predictions are whenever we get the battery into the 5 to 10%. But I also want to maximize the amount of energy I pull from my house to put in my car, because I have a flex savings plan with Duke Energy. Duke Energy is the company that provides my house with power. I signed up for the flex savings plan. So during off-peak hours, it is only 6 cents per kilowatt to charge. During the just regular time, it's like 12, and then during the heavy load time or on peak, if I remember correctly, the price then is like 20 cents per kilowatt, which is still cheaper than 56 cents per kilowatt from Electrify America. But if I can charge most of the battery up at home, I will have saved myself some money in the long run. We're getting better efficiency and better range than what Hyundai said we were going to get, which I think is really cool. Part of that, I believe, is if you look at my tire pressure, you can see that my tires are at about 50 psi. One tire is a little low, but that tire is of a different brand. So it's the same brand, it's just a different type of tire. I had a nail go right up through a sidewall, in and out of the sidewall, and I had to get that tire replaced. So that tire can't be pumped up to 51 psi like the other ones can. That one has a little bit of a lower max. However, because I keep the tires more inflated than what Hyundai recommends, it lowers the amount of friction that the wheels have with the road, and that increases our range and actually increases performance a little bit. Due to the weight of this vehicle, it needs at least 40 psi in the tire, realistically 45 to 50. A lot of people don't understand a lot about tire pressure and how vehicle manufacturers tell you to put very low. 20 to 30 psi is actually very low. A lot of people don't realize just how low that is. The reason why vehicle manufacturers do that is because it makes the car ride smoother, and people want a smooth ride. So, if you're testing out a brand new car at a dealership and it has a smooth ride, you're more likely to buy that car if you're looking for a car with a smooth ride. However, if in a gas car, you get more gas mileage if your tires are inflated to the tire's max PSI rating. Same thing with an EV, and it's very noticeable in an EV when in terms of range, because EVs are way more sensitive when it comes to deficiencies in the drivetrain, whether it be the tires, worn out wheel bearings, worn out CV axles. Things like that matter greatly in terms of your driving range in an EV. And in a gas car, your wheel hub might be worn out, and you're like, yeah, it makes some noise, but it's fine. I don't notice any issue with my fuel economy. Most gas cars are not that sensitive when it comes to parts slowly degrading, needing to be replaced, and how that affects fuel economy. So a lot of people are going to say, well, it's dangerous to have your tire pressure that high. You're going above what what the vehicle manufacturer recommends. That's a bad idea. There's actually a lot of studies online where they have shown that you should go above that. If you actually look at law enforcement across the country, law enforcement agencies are trained to keep your tires inflated over what the vehicle manufacturer recommends, because that helps with performance. It greatly helps with performance. And that's something that I run on all my cars. I run near just about the tire's maximum pressure. It depends on the weight of the vehicle. This EV weighs just a hair under 5,000 pounds, so it's comfortable at about 50 psi. If this thing weighed, let's say, 3,000 pounds, I wouldn't put at 50 psi, because at that point there would just be too much pressure in the tire. The tires would be too firm, and the suspension would be getting a lot of abuse. But these EVs have pretty firm suspension because they have a very heavy chassis. Well, not so much chassis. They have a heavy battery. They got to lug around that heavy battery all the time. They need a bit of a more firm suspension than their gas counterparts. However, if the gas car recommends 35 psi and the EV, which weighs over 1,000 pounds more, recommends 35 psi, any reasonable person can go, wait a minute, that doesn't seem right. You have 1,000 extra pounds on a car, and you're still putting the exact same amount of tire pressure in it. Why? Doesn't the weight of the vehicle affect tire pressure? In the reality is it does. How firm the suspension is, the weight of the vehicle, the amount of, and you saw that van that just passed us, the amount of cargo you have in a van or in a truck, that can greatly dictate whether or not your tires need to be overinflated. So that's a conversation that I'll probably have in a video later. I'm going to make a separate video of that where I really go in depth into explaining why tire pressure matters so much in an EV. But I don't want to add all that into this video. I wanted to try to make this video nice and short, just give you guys some good information when it comes to range of the 2020 Kona Electric, and also the charging experience, because I'm a first-time EV buyer, I'm a first-time EV owner. This is my first EV road trip. Technically, actually, this is my second one. I did an EV road trip just yesterday, but that did not require any public charging. That was just, using the EV to its maximum range and then driving back home. This is the first trip I've taken where I've actually had to rely on public charging, and so far the experience has been really good. I imagine as I do this more and more, I'm going to run into some bad experiences, but so far I've had 2 companies I've charged with, Electrify America and EVgo, and the experience has been good. I will say though, EVgo chargers are a little on the slower end, but from what I have heard, EVgo is in the process of redoing a lot of their chargers. So I think that we are going to slowly see faster and faster chargers start popping up from EVgo, and I believe that will help their reputation as well as their availability and people actually choosing them as opposed to Electrify America. But we will have to see what happens as far as the future of EVs go and the charging, and thankfully we're getting more and more and more chargers, and the charging experience has been good thus far. The road trip experience has been great. If you're thinking on buying an EV and you have any questions about, hey, I'm just not really sure whether or not this is the right thing for me, here's my driving style, like, is this really a good idea? Leave a comment in the video and I might be able to get back to you, or someone else watching this video might be able to help you out and give you some information that you can use to help you make a purchasing decision. Alrighty, so we have made it. We're at 22% battery and only 58 miles of range according to the car. The car was saying that when we arrived we should have 70 miles of range, and it's now saying we have 58 miles of range. Now, that being said, I have driven it about 5 miles per hour faster than what I would normally go, so that could possibly play a part in it. We have 423 miles driven on this total trip. Still saying 4.3 miles per kilowatt, so that hasn't decreased at all, and yet our predicted range has in fact decreased. So that's very interesting. And the climate control settings have been set at 76 the entire time. Both AC and heat on. 76 the entire time. We haven't been changing those. So we're back at the first charger we started from, and God, look at those nasty pickup trucks. Carolina squatters, my goodness, retards of all humanity. Anyway, we are gonna go ahead and plug up and charge. We've already gotten our food. So, okay, those are sodas. The food, you can't see it. There we go, that's the food. We do have it, I wasn't lying to you. And we're gonna see how long it takes us to charge up and see who gets done faster. Can I shove my face faster than this can charge the car, or vice versa? So this is very interesting. I went ahead and plugged up and initiated the app, plugged in the cord, it connected, it started charging. We're getting 72 kilowatts into the battery. You can hear the buzz. It's making the buzzing noise. And my app gave me a notification that says charging error. Charger cannot read vehicle. On the screen, it is not showing that it's charging at all. However, my car says it is charging. So I don't really know what's going on, but since it is charging, I'm just gonna leave it. We were at 23%, we're now at 24%. I don't know if this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to get some free electricity. And by free, I mean it's not technically free. I kind of need to call Electrify America and report that problem. But it is interesting that that charger is not showing that the vehicle is charging, but the car is saying that it is charging. I think some form of miscommunication occurred. Now it says, thank you for choosing Electrify America. Let's see if the screen updates. Oh, now it does update. Okay. So, no free electricity. It's in fact gonna cost me, which is perfectly understandable. But that was very interesting that if I would have just followed the app, I would have had to disconnect this and start the whole thing over again. Just waiting for like 30 seconds. Sure enough, I mean, that solved the issue. We're plugged in and not really all the way up in the parking space because of how far back this charger is. So my back end of the vehicle is sticking out a little bit. I didn't want the cable laying across the front end of the car. But yeah, it says we're going to be fully charged in 42 minutes. So I'm going to stop filming and get to eating, and we'll see just how long it takes for us to get to 80. Alright, well, I just got done eating. We're at 46%, still pulling 69 kilowatts. I like that number, but I do wish it was higher. And we have 227 miles of range left. So it says it's going to take 29 minutes before we're topped off. I need to run in and actually use the restroom. So not quite done yet. It'll be interesting to see by the time I come back to the car and I'm ready to go, how much extra time do I actually have to wait to get up to 80. That being said, I need to actually look at how many miles it's going to be from this charger to the house, because I might not even need to get up to 80% by the time I can head on home. If I have enough range and I'm not even at 80, I'll probably just unplug. But we will see. So I just got done in the restroom, got back to the car. We are at 72%. It says 10 minutes till 80. However, my house is only 170 miles away. We already have 204 miles of range, so I'm not even going to bother charging up to 80. I'm just going to unplug and go. But from what I have liked is that we have not had to spend really any time charging much at all, where we're just sitting here waiting on the car to charge, just being bored out of our mind. The entire time we've been charging, I've been doing something to occupy me, and I mean, in this case, eating, using the restroom real quick, come back to my car, and I'm good to already head back home. Alrighty, so this is interesting. When we left the charger, we had 209 miles of range, and we had 270 miles to travel. About 15-20 minutes in the trip, we recalculated that number based on its new range estimated and how many miles we had left to travel. And it went down from having 39 miles difference to 35 miles difference. We just did another calculation. Now it's saying 31 miles difference. So the range estimate is continuously dropping faster than the amount of miles I'm actually covering. So right now I have 133 miles to travel, 162 miles of range, but it'll be interesting to see if those numbers eventually close up, where it says I have, so-and-so miles of range and the exact same amount of miles to travel. So the range estimate is now proving to be slightly inaccurate. Now we have gone down to 4.2 miles per kilowatts. Speed limit 65, I'm doing 65. I'm not going faster than the speed limit, not going slower than the speed limit. I'm just driving along how I would normally drive. And so far the range isn't acting too well as far as that range estimate goes. It's going to be interesting to see if I have to actually stop and add a little bit more juice in just to get myself all the way home, or will I in fact arrive at home having 39 miles of range left on the car. Something I have noticed with this car is that whenever the battery percentage gets low, when I say low, I'm talking about, anything below like 30, 35, the range estimate becomes inaccurate. It starts dropping your range quicker than the miles you travel. So when the battery is full, it says I have 208 miles of range. Correction, 280 miles of range, even though this car is rated for 258. And it could be that the car just thinks it can get more range than it really can. It really can only do 258. It's going to be interesting to see when I get home, if I can get home without having to charge. If I get home without having to charge, what will the battery percentage be? But more importantly, how much range will it estimate I have left? Because I have never really had any experience with the range being inaccurate. If anything, I'll drive 30 miles and it'll say that I've only used 20 miles of range, and I'm like, oh wow, that's pretty good. But I've always kept this car at least generally above 50. It hasn't really been taken below 50% very often, and that's really just due to our driving style. Generally, we don't charge it to 100 unless we're planning on driving a good while. A lot of times we keep the charging capped at 90%. And we will drive it around, and it'll go days without being charged, and once the battery reaches below 70, then we'll plug it in and charge it back up to 90. And that's where the vehicle's kind of lived most of its life for the past 4 months now, since we've owned it. So it'll be interesting to see what our range estimate is going to be when we actually arrive, because I would not be surprised if at some point the range and the miles I have left to travel, they end up matching, and now I'm looking for a place to charge for a little bit just to get me enough range to get back home. Or possibly our efficiency is going to improve a bit. Maybe we're going to get back to 4.4 miles per kilowatt, and the range issue will correct itself, and we'll arrive at our driveway with at least 30 miles of range. But realistically, if the range estimate is to be perfectly believed, we should arrive in our driveway with 39 miles of range. And again, we're keeping the climate control settings the exact same we have been throughout the trip. We're still driving in normal mode. We're following speed limits, not going crazy fast, not going crazy slow, not tailing behind 18-wheelers. I'm not trying to do any funny tricks to get extra range out of the vehicle. I just want to see if the vehicle will accurately report its efficiency and its range. And so far, it has been very accurate, but this is the first time I'm actually noticing some inaccuracies. So it'll be interesting to see if this vehicle corrects that later on in this road trip, or if those inaccuracies grow and all of a sudden we find ourselves at yet another charger. I left that Electri America charger at about, I think, 71% battery, if I remember correctly. I could have waited just a few more minutes and gotten to 80% battery, and then we probably wouldn't have even really noticed the range being close to how many miles we have left to drive at all. But I wanted to drive this car kind of how I would a gas car, of, hey, I'm ready to get back on the road, let's go. It says I have enough range to get there, let's see if it's right. So I will update you guys whenever we arrive at either a charger or my house. Well, as you can see, this is not my home. This is a charger. We did not make it home. So here's the situation. We have 104 miles of range left, 89 miles to go. That gap is now 15 miles. It should be at 39. It has been steadily going down. It's hit 15. On my way back home, I looked at Electrify America app, saw that there was this charging station directly in our line of travel, and I'm like, great, that's a perfect place to stop and charge. We're going to go ahead and try this one out. Haven't charged this one or tried this one before, but I'm going to initiate it from the app like I always do. This station's a lot nicer because I can back into the spot, which is very nice because my charge port's up the front, so I won't have an issue with getting the cord around. And on the ground, it was labeled the speed of the charger. So since this only charges up to, I want to say 75 kilowatt hours, I like to park in the 150 charging station and not the 350. That way, if somebody else pulls up and they want that 350, they can actually have it. So I try to take the slower ones if I can, because I know my car doesn't have the capability of taking 350 kilowatts like other cars do. All right, we're plugged in, charging 75 kilowatt hours. I like that this car has had really consistent speeds when it comes to charging. That's actually been really nice. Inconvenient that we have to charge anyway, but I can go ahead and know that I'll be able to make it home with plenty enough range now. Part of me's thinking, I could just take it up to 50%, then head out. But I might just camp out here till we hit at least 50 miles of range over what I need, and then head out. So I don't think we'll be here for too long. So far, I've not had any issues. On this charger, I literally opened up my app, clicked on this charger in the app, I hit swipe to charge, I plugged it in, it started working. No issues whatsoever. So that's been nice that all 3 times I've charged with Electrify America, no issues. Both times I charged with EV Go, no issues. So that's pretty nice as far as the charging experience goes. It is unfortunate about the range though. And as I said before, I wasn't driving crazy fast. I wasn't going over the speed limit. I was just driving the speed limit like normal. Climate control settings haven't changed. As you can see, AC and heat has been on throughout the entire trip. We like to keep a nice steady temperature. Haven't plugged anything into the vehicle that would suck up a lot of power. So nothing about the vehicle really changed. Our drive mode is still in normal. We haven't gone to sport or eco mode or anything like that. We just we're falling short of our range, and I think a lot of that has to do with we're going mostly uphill now, whereas before we were going mostly downhill. So it'll be interesting to see by the time I get back to the house, will we still have over 4 miles per kilowatt, or will it actually start to go down to, somewhere between 3.5 and 3.9? Because if by the time I get to the house, if it's at, let's say 3.8, I understand more now of why the range fell so much. So I just checked and forgot how much range I needed to get home. I need 89 miles to get to home. I am already at 176 miles of range. So that should definitely get me home. I thought on maybe just waiting till 80, charging up at 80, and then driving home. But the reality is I will not need to do that at all. I'm just going to unplug now and head on home. I got plenty of range. So it's nice. I've only been here for 18 minutes according to the charger, but it's pretty nice that I don't even need to charge 280 to get back to the house. So that's actually pretty good. I'm gonna go ahead and disconnect, and look at that, it's already at 179. I will say, this does charge pretty quickly. Our speeds have now started to drop. We are at 57, but I'm gonna go ahead and disconnect, and we're gonna get going. So I've already done this a few times. Let's do it again. We're gonna go ahead and hit stop. Still buzzing. Use the touch screen maybe. Oh, okay. Apparently the buttons don't work. You have to use the touch screen. Grab this pretty heavy charger. Goodness. There we go. And I guess that will just go away at some point, maybe. I don't know. Put our dust caps back on, which I think these are actually more for keeping road salts out of the connection ports than actual dust, because road salts can corrode the pins inside. Yep, there's the screen. I never actually bothered to take a look at what the screen says. Let me actually do that for once in my life. Okay, cool. It says pretty much everything it's going to say in the email that it sends me. $11. So I added up the charging cost on this trip, and it was about $50. So I'm going to add 11 to 50. That's going to get $61, which is still cheaper than it would be if I would have taken my gas car, but my gas car is not fuel efficient at all, so it's not really saying much. My gas car gets 16 miles per gallon, But this car is still cheaper than the gas car, but the gas car wouldn't have given me any issues when it comes to range or finding a gas station. But as time goes on and more chargers get installed and cars have better computers to determine their range, a lot of these problems are just going to resolve themselves with time. Well, we made it back to the house. We've driven 594 miles. Total cost of charging has been about $66 of public charging used. Our fuel, not fuel economy, our miles per kilowatt has gone down to 4. And there's our overall average. So our economy went down to basically what I get on average with this vehicle, which is 4 miles per kilowatt. I've been getting that for the past 2,600 miles. 12 hours and 19 minutes of on time. Alright, so it is the next day, and I just wanted to make a follow-up video about the vehicle's charging. So, this vehicle here did in fact charge to 100% with the priority charging set, and that's good, because I was kind of wondering, will it stop charging at 6 a.m. even if the battery hasn't reached 100, or will it continue to charge? When you have you can have it to where it charges only during the hours you specify, or it prioritizes it. So it'll charge early if you plug it in, let's say at 7, the battery's very low, and it needs to start charging earlier than, in my case, 1 a.m. to 6 a.m. It'll do that. Or if you plugged it in at, when we came home at about 2 a.m. I think it was. So if you plug it in at about 2 a.m., then it will charge past 6 a.m. to get it up to 100. And again, the hours we've told the vehicle to charge is between 1 a.m. and 6 a.m. That's what's going to prioritize that. So it is nice that it did charge up to 100%. And right now our range is 252. Now, as I said before, I reset the accumulated info. And of course the drive info resets every day. That's just a daily thing it does. So I did reset the accumulated info, and it is now saying 270 with climate off, 252 with climate on. And of course right now climate is on. So this used to always be about 280. It's actually dropped itself a little bit, which is good. So maybe the vehicle has learned from this road trip, hey, okay, I don't really have as much range as I thought I did. Or maybe when I start driving around and I get a new average kilowatt hour rating, then it'll tell me, all right, well, this is your new range. All in all, I'm thinking 252 is probably realistic depending on my climate info. I'm going to turn up my fan speed here. I just started the car. It's hot outside, so I needed the air conditioner on. And as you can see, its range is in fact going down. Alright, that's pretty cool. Yeah, so all in all, I feel like the computer's decently accurate. Wasn't super accurate on that trip though, coming home. Granted, we were going uphills a lot and we were getting less efficiency than we had been on the first leg of the trip where we were going downhill a lot. So it's understandable why the vehicle fell short. However, it would be nicer if it can recalculate its range quicker. And I almost wonder, when you're on a road trip, obviously your drive info is going to build up as you drive because you cannot reset the drive info. It automatically resets. The accumulated info, however, you can. It might be a good idea, and what I'm probably going to start doing and test this out is every time I take a trip, every journey I take, whether it's from, from my home to the nearest charger, I'll see what my average is, and then after charging, I'll reset it. Drive maybe to the next charger, then reset it. Drive to the destination, then from the destination to the next charger, reset it again, and I'll just see what the average miles per kilowatt is, because if I'm making that trip down somewhere, let's say we go, in this case we use Atlanta, we're driving down to Atlanta, I might see that, oh, okay, I have about 4.5 miles per kilowatt driving down there, but only 3.5 coming up. And then I might be able to look at my average miles per kilowatt and make a better determination on what amount of range I'll have. And my hope is that the vehicle will change its range based on the accumulated info average. Since I was averaging 4 miles per kilowatt for those 2,600 miles, I believe it was, the vehicle could have just really thought that it really was able to make it, not really understanding that that accumulated info is not all just highway. You know, it was a mix of city and highway and all sorts of types of driving. Versus when we were on a road trip, obviously when you're on a road trip, you're just doing highway. So that is just a theory I have right now. It's something that I plan on testing out in the future to see if maybe that will help the vehicle get better range predictions. And if you've gotten to the end of this video, thank you for watching. Hopefully I've given you information that actually helps. If you have questions about the Kona Electric or EVs in general, or there's something you'd like to see on this channel, or a test you'd like me to do with this EV, leave it in the comment. I do read the comments, though I don't always reply back to them. I do read them, and I appreciate the input, and thank you for watching.